guys. I'm so excited to share this with you today. We're going to be diving deep into how to have pain-free and easy cycles, balance your hormones so that your period comes and you don't even feel like you're on your period when you're on your period. So that's how it should be. Your cycle should not take over your life. It should not cause you to cancel plans or have to call in sick to work or have to rely on ibuprofen to just get through the day. Your cycle should come easy and relatively pain-free. It should not stop your life. And so if you've been trying time and time again different diets or different supplements and you're just kind of stuck right now as to what to do to balance your hormones, I'm going to give you some action steps today that will point you in the right direction and help you start healing your hormones naturally, because it is 100% possible to have pain-free and easy cycles. You just have to know what to do to support your hormones naturally. And that's the key here. So that's what we're going to dive into. So basically it's going to be what your doctor won't tell you about balancing your hormones is kind of the theme to this. And why I think that that's actually hilarious now that I'm looking back at it is, I'm going to tell you guys a little story really quick. So as women, like, and myself included, when my hormones were really struggling, I was having really, really painful periods. My PMS was out of control. I had really bad gut issues. My acne was really bad. I went to my doctor, right? And I was like, okay, what is going on with me? What's wrong? And they didn't really have any significant answer for me. They were like, well, it's just part of being a woman. You know, you're going through these hormonal changes and that's just normal. That didn't really fly with me. That didn't sit well. And so the other weekend, I was actually out to dinner with my boyfriend and his friends to celebrate his birthday. And one of his friends is a doctor. And we were chatting and I was a little bit like, how much do I share with you about what I do? Because I know what you do. But we got to talking and he was actually so like interested in the nutrition side of things. He was asking me about like what foods he should be adding in and what supplements he should include. And all of these questions that I was just like, you really don't know any of this, do you? And so and I asked him, I was like, how much nutrition do you actually learn in medical school? And he was like, barely any. And that's when it really, really hit me that like, doctors just don't have the knowledge to help us with these things. And this is where like what I realized was I was going to the wrong place and the wrong people for the answers, when in reality, this is the right place. Like when you dive into your nutrition and you focus on like what foods to add in, what minerals and nutrients you're getting, and focusing on things like blood sugar and supporting your metabolism, which is what we're going to all dive into today, that is the foundation that your hormones need to thrive. And a lot of doctors' recommendations is just, you know, birth control or antidepressants or try a diet, but it doesn't actually set the foundation for pain-free and easy cycles. And so this is actually the place that you should be to learn all of that stuff. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So I'm really excited to share this with you. So this is for you if you are ready to take the confusion and frustration out of dieting. You're ready to basically learn how to change the narrative from like restricting, just cutting out foods, just avoiding things like the typical advice of avoid gluten and dairy and sugar. And you're ready to take the guesswork out and stop the trial and error of like adding in different supplements and like saying, okay, is this what my hormones need? What about this diet? You're done with that. And you're like, no, I just need some hard-hitting action steps that actually support my female physiology. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. Because really like what your hormones are craving is not, they're not struggling because you're eating too much gluten, dairy, or sugar or processed foods. They're struggling because they're lacking the tools and the nutrients that they need to thrive. And when you start to add those things in, that is when the narrative changes. And that is when you start to have pain-free and easy cycles that just show up without like the huge drama of PMS symptoms beforehand. So that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. But before we go there, I just want to introduce myself real quick to those of you who don't know me, who haven't talked to me before. I'm Becca. I'm so excited for you guys to be here. I'm a holistic nutritionist, and I help women balance their hormones naturally so that they can have pain-free and easy cycles without having to rely on restrictive diets or medications. But more importantly, I was once in your shoes. So I know what it's like to feel like nothing is working and that you are trying all the right things and that you can't possibly get stricter with your diet because you're already doing everything. I saw multiple doctors and naturopaths and acupuncturists, and no one knew what was wrong with me. No one could tell me like what the root cause, what actually was. And I tried probably every single diet out there, and none of them worked because none of them focused on my female physiology. None of them had my hormones in mind. So I basically said enough was enough. I took a break from the like supplement cabinet I had of like 20 different supplements, and I really went to work on nourishing my body. And that is when the narrative changed. And so that is the key piece that we're going to talk about today and break down exactly how to do that. So again, this is what I did that actually worked for me, was setting that nourishing nutritional foundation. Without that, you can take all of the crazy supplements or like meditate or, do all the crazy diets, cut out the foods. But if your nutrition, if you're not fueling your body properly, you're not giving your body the nutrients and energy it needs to prioritize your hormones, then it's going to feel like you're always missing something. And there's always a missing piece there. It's kind of like, and I see this time and time again where people have like a cabinet full of supplements, and the supplements and like the extra frills, it's not that they don't always work, because there's a time and place for that, but it's kind of like they're the toppings on the pizza, right? The pizza is kind of like the actual foundation you need first. You don't just want to be eating a bunch of toppings. That's not very fun and kind of pointless, right? You want the full shebang. You want the pizza and the toppings. That's what makes a strong foundation, right? That's what you want to enjoy. So that's what we're going to dive into and address that root cause. So today, what we're going to dive deeper into is why the typical hormone, quote unquote, hormone balancing diet isn't working for you, like what you're actually missing in there. And a lot of these things are just glorified on social media, where this one thing worked for me to heal my hormones, when in reality, like, what we're going to do today is actually break down what that really looks like. And let's be honest, there's not one thing. There's really not, but there are steps that your body needs to have set. And that is what really makes the difference. So why the typical hormone balancing diet doesn't work, we're going to actually dive into how to eat in a way that supports your female physiology, what your hormones need, and then those action steps so that you guys can get started to having pain-free and easy cycles right now. It typically, what I see with women, and I'll be completely honest with you guys, it does take anywhere between 1 to 4 cycles, sometimes 5 or 6, depending on where what you've been doing over the past 10, 20 years of your life, basically, is going to determine. And also, what's going to make a big difference is your mindset going into this, right? Like you've already heard me talk about, okay, we need to change the narrative from restricting and cutting out those foods to nourishing your body. That is a huge flip of the switch that's going to make a big difference. So what does it actually mean to eat to support your hormones? Let me just check to see if there's any questions so far. Okay, cool. I think we're good. What does it mean to support your hormones? Like what is a hormone balancing diet? What does that actually mean? So to me, what that means is eating to support your female physiology. And when I think of what it means to support my female physiology, most women have done a lot of diets over the years in their life. If you aren't currently dieting, think back 10, maybe even 20 years of your life. Were you under eating intentionally or not? Were you restricting things like carbs or sugar or dairy? Were you putting your body in that place where it, it did have to struggle to create energy for you, right? Like, were you cutting out energy for a long period of time? Anytime we cut out foods, that usually means that we aren't eating enough. And that this is like the majority of the issues with like fear mongering foods and telling people to cut out all these different foods to balance their hormones is we end up eating less. And that ends up really hurting our metabolism. Your metabolism starts to slow down. And this is the start of it. So if you've been under eating intentionally or not, that's going to start to, over time, slow down your metabolism. Your body's going to adapt, right? And if we aren't eating enough, that's a big stressor on your body, right? It creates this sense of like scarcity. There's not a consistent source of fuel coming in. It puts your body in this state of fight or flight almost. And over time, what happens is your body stops having enough energy to prioritize your hormones. So your body's having to kind of pick and choose. If it's not getting enough coming in because you're doing a bunch of diets and you're kind of like all over the place with nutrition, what's going to happen again is that metabolism slows down, and that dieting creates a lot of stress in your system. And higher levels of stress lead to more hormonal chaos. This is going to affect your hormones, because what's happening when your body is, again, struggling to meet its energy needs, your metabolism slows down, your body starts to pick and choose where it prioritizes things in your body. So if hormones aren't essential, they're nice. We want pain-free cycles, but they're not essential to keep you alive, right? You can survive without having cycles. So that's going to go to the back burner. And primarily ovulation, that's what goes to the back burner. And when you start to not ovulate or not ovulate well, that messes with the balance of estrogen to progesterone. And that's where it kind of shows up. Is it starts with, okay, your body doesn't have enough fuel coming in, so it's trying to kind of prioritize where its energy goes, and then hormones go to the back burner. And then we start to experience irregular cycles or really painful cycles or really bad PMS symptoms. And it kind of feels like you're always on this roller coaster with your hormones. And so what it really means to support your hormones is first creating that safety, making sure that your body is consistently getting enough fuel to support your metabolism. Your metabolism is way more than just your weight, whether you can lose weight or gain weight easily. It's way more than just that. It's kind of like the foundation of how your body gets energy or prioritizes energy to all the different functions of your body, like digestion, hormones, pumping heart through your system, thyroid, liver. All of those things require part of that fuel. Hold on one sec. How do you know? Okay, Felicia just asked a question really quick. How do you know if you're ovulating well? Really good question. I'll dive more into this later on, but how you know if you're ovulating well is you don't necessarily notice that you're ovulating. So you ovulate, and then what you'll notice is, this is what I do with all my clients, is we start taking your temperature. So ideally in the first half of your cycle, your temperature should be between when you first wake up, first thing in the morning. So your waking temperature should be between 97.2 and 97.5-ish, sometimes a little higher, just depending on the person. Once you ovulate, that temperature should jump up into the 98s. So if your temperature is not jumping, it's not increasing post-ovulation, you're not making enough progesterone. So temperature is a really good, easy way to track ovulation. And then you also just want to like look into, how are my cycles? Is my cycle 28 to 32 days regularly, consistently? Or am I having like irregular cycles all over the place? PMS symptoms, mood swings, energy levels, all of those are signs that you are ovulating well or not. Because we only make progesterone when we are ovulating. So if we're not ovulating well, you're going to have a very symptomatic luteal phase, and that temperature spike is not going to jump very much. So those are all really easy ways to test. You can also test using like either LH strips or like progesterone strips, but just going off your basal body temperature and your symptoms are really, really like simple ways to tell if you're ovulating well. Good question. You guys put your questions in the chat. I don't want to check this like too regularly because I want to get through everything. But I'll answer all the questions at the end as well, but really good question. Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is what it means to eat to support your hormones. Okay, so let's go through diets that will make your hormones worse, right? So if you are doing these things, this is why your hormones are struggling. If you have done these things in the past, this is why your hormones are struggling. If you have cut out foods, right? If you are eating less intentionally or not, and you have just restricted foods, for example, things like dairy, right? Like the internet tells us avoid dairy, right? But okay, that means that we are missing a lot of nutrients that dairy actually has. So are you getting enough calcium without dairy? Are you getting enough vitamin A? So those are the things that we want to dive into and look at, that like cutting out foods usually means that we are not getting enough of something to some degree. So also avoiding carbs and sugar, that is going to lower, if you're not eating enough carbohydrates, you're going to have poor thyroid function, which is going to lower your progesterone levels. So that lack of glucose over time, again, is going to slow down your metabolism. We want our body to be able to digest carbs very, very efficiently, and be able to handle, again, everyone's different, but a balanced amount of carbohydrates. So we're going to talk about like how to balance your meals and stuff, but always balancing your carbs will allow your body to actually utilize carbohydrates very efficiently. You don't need to restrict them, and your body does so much better when you keep them in. And when I'm talking about carbs and sugar, I'm talking about like nutrient dense carbs and sugar, things like fruits and root vegetables, maybe some raw honey, or even like fruit juices. So you want, and then maybe even like in your luteal phase, when you need some heartier carbs to balance your blood sugar, things like sourdough or white rice, maybe more potatoes, those kinds of things. So we'll talk about some cycle specific stuff, but we need carbohydrates is the end of the story. Fasting also will like cause hormonal chaos. Fasting, again, you're restricting the time that your body is getting consistent fuel, which means that you have to tap into your backup system. You have to use another source of fuel, which is cortisol. That's what happens. Your backup generator kicks in, which is stress hormones, and higher levels of cortisol are going to block progesterone receptors. They're going to slow down your metabolism, and they're going to lower your thyroid function, specifically the production of T3, which is your active thyroid hormone. So these are the diets that are going to make your hormones worse, whether you're doing them now or you've done them in the past. It's going to continue to contribute to that hormonal chaos. Okay. Other things that are going to make your hormonal issues worse are, and again, before I go into like these things that aren't nutrition related, this doesn't mean that you can't use birth control, you can't use antidepressants or any medications or those things. The idea is that you're focusing on replenishing the nutrients and the minerals that these things also deplete. So I have clients that still use birth control. That makes them feel really good to be on birth control, and that's totally their prerogative. But what we want to make sure is that they're supporting the nutrients and minerals that these things deplete, because they do have an effect on our physiology. Birth control depletes us of majority of our essential minerals that we need to balance our hormones. And it also stops ovulation. So you are not making any progesterone and kind of puts you in this estrogen dominant state. It more so mimics menopause is kind of the way I like to explain it. And a lot of times that's how women feel, is they start to feel like they're in menopause when they're on birth control, because they're not producing enough. They're not producing any progesterone and not ovulating. Antidepressants, again, I'm not saying they are bad by any means. If you need antidepressants, you need antidepressants, but take into consideration that they do deplete you of zinc and some other essential minerals. So talk to your doctor if you feel like you're on some of these medications and you're concerned about what they are depleting as well, because you can just add those things in. The other thing, lack of fun. I know a lot of us are guilty of this, but don't get wrapped up in your healing journey. Plan fun things to look forward to. a lot of times what I see is when clients go on vacation, they're out of the stress of everyday life. Maybe they just plan a girls' night. Like it just, at the time, it feels like you don't want to do anything, but putting yourself in that situation where you are like having fun makes such a big difference in your hormones. I promise you. So, before we dive into the action steps, I want to kind of give you guys a little bit of a picture of how this works, and what I've done with this is what I do with all my clients really, but one of my clients specifically, I think this story a lot of women relate to. So this is Sadie's story. So when she came to me, she was experiencing 45 plus day cycles, right? She had really, really painful periods and her mood swings were out of control. Like her partner was like scared of her before she got her period. If anyone can relate, you know what I mean. She had really bad anxiety also right before her period, hormonal acne. She was bloated all of the time. And it wasn't just around her period. This was also happening around ovulation as well. I see a lot of both sides of it where it's sometimes women have both symptoms around ovulation and before their period, or one or the other. And they both kind of mean different things. So she also had she was exhausted all the time. She also had a really, really unhealthy relationship with food because of how much she had been trying to heal her hormones through all of these different diets. And she felt like she had tried everything. Food was always on her mind. She was gaining weight, even though she was eating less and exercising more, like the typical diet advice tells you, but nothing was moving. And she actually did a Dutch test before we started working together. Or like when we initially started working together, and her hormones showed that she had really low cortisol and low progesterone and high estrogen, which is everything I told her was going on before she even took the Dutch test. You don't need to take lab tests to understand what's going on with your hormones. You just need to listen to your symptoms, track your cycle, and start to implement these things that we're going to talk about. So what did we actually do to balance these hormones? The process we went through, and this is exactly what I'm going to show you how to do right after this. We took a metabolism first approach. Again, we made sure that she was getting enough fuel coming in to lower cortisol levels and make her body feel safe again to prioritize her hormones. Second piece we did was we really dialed in on the missing nutrients and minerals that she wasn't getting from her quote unquote healthy diet, right? So we actually looked at like, okay, was she getting enough potassium and sodium and calcium and vitamin A and zinc and the things that I'm going to give you this list so you have it, don't worry. But the nutrients that your hormones actually need, we really dialed that in. And then we added in some cycle-specific things to help her increase her progesterone and help her liver detox estrogen properly, because that was also what was the problem, is that she was, her liver was overburdened and kind of like sluggish from all of the dieting she had done over the years. Her body was kind of tapped out. So again, she thought she had tried everything. I kid you not. She was very, very hesitant to work with me because she was like, I don't know what more you can do for me. And this is what happened. After the first month, her cycle showed up pain-free, right? She still had some PMS symptoms and whatnot as we were working on adding things in, because again, you have to go at a slow pace, but her cycle just showed up and she was like stunned, no pain. After the second month, 0 PMS symptoms, which was a huge win for her because her partner, like, I kid you not, was like scared of her before her cycle. And she told me he was just like, what is going on? Where are you? Type of thing. Because that was just the norm. But she had no mood swings. She got her period on vacation with no symptoms. She was just living in the moment, didn't have to worry about her cycle on vacation at all. After the third month, she went from 45-day cycles to 35-day cycles, which was huge because now we're starting to regulate her cycle more, which means her body is putting the energy into regulating ovulation, and she is ovulating way, way better. Also, because we focused on what we should add in versus restrict. I don't think I told her to take out any food she was currently eating food she liked, food she enjoyed. I even encouraged her to like enjoy some foods a little bit more. She really started to change the way she saw food and her body, and really started to like really embrace her feminine side more, and just felt more confident in herself, and felt like, you know, she just had a way better relationship with how she saw food. So again, she thought she had tried everything until she started focusing on this 3-step method. These are the first 3 things that set the foundation to have pain-free and easy cycles. And this is what you want to start with. So the first thing is creating safety in the body, which doesn't mean like quit your job and move to a remote island, although that would be really nice. What it means is get your body to trust you again. Get your body to like understand that it is consistently going to be getting enough food throughout the day. You're not skipping meals. You're eating every 3 to 4 hours or so to keep your blood sugar stable. But you are eating enough to support your metabolism. And if you're like, okay, but what does that actually mean for me? This is what you're going to do. I don't know if you guys can click this, but I will include it in the replay, and I'll drop it in the chat later. But this TDEE calculator, this should have a link to it. Or you can just Google TDEE calculator. This will give you a rough estimate as to how much fuel, how many calories are energy, that's all they are, is how many calories, how much energy does your body need to like function on a daily basis, to put energy to all its different jobs. So that's what you kind of want to look at, where that rough number is. And then what I'd recommend doing is logging your food for 3 to 4 days. I use an app like Chronometer, and I like Chronometer because it's very like food friendly. And the idea behind this is really just to get curious, right? You're like, okay, what am I doing on a regular basis? How much food am I giving my body? So we're not looking at it in a way to eat less or restrict or try and save up our calories. We're looking at it through the eyes of curiosity. We're becoming the detective. We're like, okay, how much energy do I give my body on a day-to-day basis? And is it enough, right? Is it enough to prioritize my hormones? Because 9 times out of 10, when women come to me, they're not eating enough to support their metabolisms, or they're not getting enough protein, or they're under eating carbs, or those kinds of things. So first thing you want to do is make sure you're eating enough. Once you kind of see where you're currently at versus roughly where you need to be, and usually, again, this is a calculator. So yes, it's not going to be 100% accurate, but usually I find that some women actually need more than the calculator says, especially in their luteal phase, the 2 weeks before their cycle, because of progesterone, than less. So you kind of want to listen to your body, and you want to go slow. You're not just going to like start eating 500 more calories tomorrow. But you want to do this in a very strategic way that slowly starts to get your body back up to meeting its needs on a regular basis. So when we are not eating enough, right, we talked about this, it forces your body to use its backup generator, which is cortisol. Cortisol is a energy source. It's something that we can run off of. It's something that you want to be working properly, because if you are running from a bear, you want cortisol to get you through that situation, right? When you are like pulling an all-nighter at work, hopefully you don't ever have to do that, but you want a little bit of stress to help you get through that, but you don't want to live in that state. That is not a state to live in. And over time, that is what ends up slowing down the metabolism and leading to things like hormonal imbalances and gut issues and low thyroid function and all of these different things. So if you are also not meeting your body's energy needs and supporting your metabolism, that will lower progesterone levels, and you're going to be more prone to PMS and painful periods every month, because progesterone is very metabolic, meaning that it requires an extra 200 to 300 calories sometimes. And if you're already in debt with your energy, and then you've got progesterone on top of that, that's going to pull you deeper into the hole. And you're going to be more prone to those blood sugar swings, and that's going to cause more PMS symptoms. So hint here, just adding in an extra like 200 to 300 calories in your luteal phase. Okay, cool. Sorry, I thought something happened with the Zoom. Okay, we're good. So just adding in 200 to 300 calories in your luteal phase can make a world of difference with your PMS symptoms, things like mood swings, energy dips, cravings. Like these are all, if you think about it, they're all signs that your body needs something, right? It's asking for something, and what it needs is more fuel. Because if we do have higher levels of cortisol, that actually blocks progesterone receptors. And we'll talk about this a little bit later on. But because cortisol is kind of more of like this fight or flight hormone, and progesterone is actually this like calming, relaxing hormone, you can't have both of them at the same time. Your body wants you to get through that stressful situation and not like take a nap right there. So what you can do, again, to support your metabolism is one, make sure that you are eating enough. Check in, make sure that you're eating enough, and then start eating breakfast first thing in the morning. This is going to support your metabolism and give your body that fuel to start using for energy first thing in the morning, right? So I kind of think about your metabolism as a little bit of like a fire, right? If you are putting a good amount of fuel on the fire, you're going to get that big flame. It's going to create warmth and bright light and energy. And that's kind of what you want your metabolism to be like. So you need to continually be adding consistent fuel to that fire. Otherwise, it's going to start to dim out and get really cold and dim and not create a lot of light and all of those things. And so we want that fire to be fueling and fueling really well. So starting your morning 30 to 60 minutes after waking, have breakfast. And I don't mean grab a protein bar on your way out the door, eating it in your car on your way to work. That's not going to cut it. You need to sit down and have a balanced breakfast with enough protein, carbohydrates, and a little bit of fats, right? Get your body in that rest and digest state and have a solid breakfast. Again, what that's going to look like is going to differ for everyone depending on where you're currently at and how much your body needs to function and your activity level. But eating a balanced breakfast, so things like eggs with some cheese and fruit and maybe a piece of sourdough toast, right? Like that is a full breakfast versus like, okay, I'm just going to grab a protein bar or I'm just going to grab like 2 eggs and that's it, right? That's not going to cut it. Fuel your body, especially first thing in the morning. That's going to make sure you have enough energy to keep you full and satisfied. You're not going to get cravings or mood swings or that energy drop. Like that's going to fuel your fire. So starting your morning with a balanced breakfast is the first step. Note on that, because I know I'm going to get this question. If you are not hungry first thing in the morning, that is a sign that your body is running off of cortisol. So stress hormones, again, when you're in that stressful situation, you're running from the bear, your body is going to not want you to stop and have a snack, right? It's gonna start to suppress your appetite. And so that's what's going on. You're already running off cortisol first thing in the morning, high levels of cortisol, right? We want a natural like cortisol rise and fall throughout the day. But if you're not hungry, it means you're running off of stress hormones. So you want to slowly go slow, start to add in something small. And over time, that should lower the cortisol. You should get your morning hunger back, right? Morning hunger is the sign of a healthy metabolism. You want to feel hungry first thing in the morning within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. So just starting small, and after 1 to 2 weeks, you should get your hunger back. Okay, so that was step 1. Step 2 is your hormones. I already said this, I know that, but I will say it again because it's so important. Your hormones are not struggling because you're eating too much gluten or dairy or sugar. That's not what's going on. Focusing on all the foods you have to add in, focusing on the foods that you are restricting versus the foods that you are adding in is part of the problem. You want to make sure that you are adding in nutrient-dense foods that are giving your body the nutrients and minerals that it needs to thrive. If you don't feel good when you have a ton of gluten or dairy, that's fine. But just removing them and not focusing on the foods that you need to add in is not going to solve the problem, right? If we're having sensitivities to things, we want to ask why. Why is our body struggling to digest things like dairy? Because ultimately, we have a built-in mechanism to digest dairy. Our body should produce an enzyme called lactase that should break down dairy. But when we have lower thyroid function and slow digestion, and we're not making enough progesterone, those things like stop producing that enzyme to break down the dairy. So it's not the dairy, it's your gut. So fixing your gut, I have clients that like were told they were lactose intolerant their entire lives, and they're starting to eat real dairy again without any issues. So it's not necessarily, I don't mean just like go eat a ton of dairy if it doesn't make you feel good right now, but you can digest dairy when you start to have a more resilient metabolism and your digestion improves. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but you want to focus on the things that you can add in to help support your body and that will also help make your metabolism more resilient. So really changing that mindset from restriction to nourishment. And when your metabolism is healthy, when you're eating enough consistently, you can enjoy foods that like don't have as much nutrition in them. Like if I want a slice of apple pie, I'm like, all right, great. I'm going to have a slice of apple pie because I know that that apple pie, even though it has gluten in it, it has a ton of sugar, it's not going to make me feel like trash because my body can actually process that very efficiently. It's my system is very efficient. And that is what you want to build, is that resilient metabolism that allows you to have the foods you love, but you're also adding in the nutrients that you need to help fuel the fire. So let's talk about what foods you should be adding in. This is not like a all-inclusive list, but again, there's foods, but then we want to also look at what nutrients we're getting from them. Because there are a lot of different foods that have crossovers. So we want to make sure that we're getting the nutrients and minerals that our hormones need to have pain-free cycles that don't take over our lives. And this is when we start to add these things in, even slowly. It doesn't mean you like go from 0 to 100 overnight, but maybe you start adding in, this is kind of a little bit of the order of operation I would go. Sodium and potassium, getting enough sea salt and getting enough potassium-rich foods helps support your adrenals, which helps lower cortisol levels. And so foods that potassium and sodium are also really important for producing stomach acid, for insulin resistance, for making our cells more sensitive to insulin, a lot of different things, mental health, all of these things. So, and getting enough potassium, let me tell you, it's kind of like a part-time job. Most people don't get enough potassium because a lot of women are restricting the foods that have a lot of potassium in them. So things like coconut water, tropical fruits like mango or pineapple or watermelon, or I'm like, what else has potassium in it? Papaya. Papaya is really, really good because it's also great for digestion. But things like potatoes, when you're getting potatoes on a regular basis, you're getting a ton of potassium. Things like orange juice, winter squashes, sea salt. See, the sea salt is the sodium part, not the potassium part. But getting enough sodium and potassium can make you feel like a different person. That will definitely help with your energy levels and your digestion, and that will in turn help with your cycles. So also B vitamins, I know everyone kind of turns their nose up with this, but beef liver is basically nature's multivitamin. And you don't have to eat it if you don't want to. You can get a beef liver supplement instead, but eating it is honestly not that bad, and it's very inexpensive. And it's honestly better than the supplements, I think. Getting some red meat in, getting eggs and dairy, those are all really rich sources of vitamin A and B vitamins. I just lump them together because most things have both of them. Nature has a very interesting way of combining nutrients and minerals so that you because minerals work together, they're very synergistic. You can usually find what needs to go together in nature. Calcium and magnesium. Again, if you are not eating dairy, that's not like a huge issue if dairy doesn't work for you, but you do need to add in other calcium rich foods, things like, that's supposed to say well cooked dark leafy greens, salmon, sardines, cacao. The cacao and dark chocolate are the magnesium, and the avocado is also the magnesium. The other ones are the calcium, but making sure you're getting enough other sources of calcium, because calcium will help lower your stress levels indirectly. When our body's not making enough calcium, your body's going to start to pull calcium from your bones, and that creates a stress response. So you want to make sure you're getting enough calcium, magnesium. Zinc, this one's so important for progesterone levels. Oysters are basically nature's multivitamin of the sea. So getting oysters in, especially in your luteal phase, oysters or other shellfish, I usually just do like the canned oysters. Crown Prince has a great canned oysters in olive oil. You just do like 2 or 3 of them a day until the can's out. You don't have to do them every day either. Just like getting in 1, or even like start with 1, you know, or getting fresh oysters obviously is going to be the best. Again, you can supplement with these things, but the real thing is just always better and less expensive. Red meat is also a really good source of zinc, chicken thighs, turkey, shellfish, eggs. Zinc, again, we need zinc to make progesterone. It's very calming, relaxing. It's also really great to help with sleep as well. Also vitamin C helps support the immune system, helps support our adrenals. We need those vitamin C rich foods. Those are like the main ones, okay? Obviously, there's more things you can add in, but if you start with this, then that will start to give your body the nutrients and the energy it needs. Again, you can be eating these foods, but if you are not eating enough, it won't really matter. That's still step 1, okay? You wanna make sure you're eating enough. You wanna make sure you're adding in the foods that help support our hormones and our digestion and all of the systems that domino into having pain-free and easy cycles that don't take over your life, okay? I'm almost done, and then I will answer questions, okay? Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, so that was what to add in, how to sync them with your cycle. Don't make this complicated. The internet makes this and social media makes this so much more complicated than it needs to be. First thing you wanna do is track your ovulation so that you know when you are actually in your luteal phase. And then when you're in your luteal phase, the most important thing out of anything, out of any of the foods you include, is that you are eating enough and you are increasing your calories. If you pay attention to anything, like it's make sure you are eating enough and eating more like blood sugar anchoring foods in your luteal phase. Things that are a little bit maybe like white rice or potatoes or sourdough, things that have a little more like umph to them in your luteal phase, because you're more sensitive to blood sugar swings in your luteal phase. So you want more of that like grounding, like none of this just like, you know, grazing, like picking at things, like sit down and have a like hearty meal. That's going to make a huge difference. Also making sure you're eating every 3 to 4 hours. Don't skip meals. Again, you are more prone to blood sugar swings, and that's where all the PMS comes in, is when you're not eating enough and you're not like eating enough hearty foods in your luteal phase. So more like potatoes, squashes, rice, sourdough, those types of carbohydrates, and then things like red meat, like beef or lamb. You can also do other things. Like I don't really think that much about like the foods I'm eating in my luteal phase. I think besides oysters, I make sure I get oysters in. I think more about like making sure that I'm getting enough and that I'm consistently fueling my body throughout the day and getting enough minerals. Also, red meat is good to do in your luteal phase because that's kind of helps replenish before you get your period and you are losing some of those iron and B vitamins. You're not just losing iron on your period, you're losing all of your minerals basically. So having some red meat beforehand, because it's more nutrient dense than some of the other meats and like, again, more heartier, that can make a big difference. Those are like the main things that you want to worry about with like quote unquote cycle syncing. Obviously there's like can be more to it, but these are the things that actually matter. A lot of the other fluff doesn't really matter that much. I will be completely honest with you. Okay. Last thing is balancing your blood sugar. Your blood sugar is kind of like your lifeline. Blood sugar is basically like, it makes sure that your body has a steady stream of energy to utilize. And keeping your blood sugar stable, make sure that your body does not start to run off of cortisol and start to utilize stress hormones. So when your blood sugar is stable, that's when you're going to feel more calm and relaxed and energized, and you're not going to experience those feelings of like being exhausted all the time and anxious and cravings. Those are all signs that your blood sugar is off. So to balance your blood sugar, one, you need to be eating enough, like we talked about earlier. And two, you kind of want to think about what each types of food do. So proteins, fats, and carbs are all important. You need all of them. The balance of them is one going to depend on you as an individual, but you do want to make sure that you are combining, I can't talk now because we're deep. We're so close to being done though. Combining a protein, carb, and fat in every meal and snack as best you can. This will keep your blood sugar stable and make sure that you have, again, that steady stream of energy. Most women initially need to have some sort of meal or snack every 3 to 4 hours or so. That's typically what I see. Sometimes women can go 5 hours, but I would say, especially in your luteal phase, try not to go more than 3 to 4 hours. And again, start with that like balanced breakfast first thing in the morning. Protein on its own will lower your blood sugar. If you're just eating like a beef stick, then you're probably going to feel maybe tired, hungry really quickly afterwards. It's going to lower your blood sugar. If you don't have enough carbohydrates on their own will elevate your blood sugar, but together they create balance. So protein plus carbs, and then the fat, what the fat does is kind of slows down the release of glucose into your bloodstream so you can stay full and satisfied for longer. And it's not just like this roller coaster. But usually the fat like comes with whatever the protein is or whatever like you're cooking with. So you don't usually have to add in a ton of fat. So I would just make it simple, pair a protein with a carb, and then you're going to have to kind of experiment with what ratios work best for you. I would say first taking into consideration where you're currently at, because again, you don't want to go from 0 to 100. That won't feel good, but slowly start to add in a little bit more and see, okay, maybe I feel a little bit more energized. Maybe I'm able to go longer in between meals. Oh, I didn't get my 3 p.m. energy crash today. Those are the types of things that your body will tell you. We're starting to get a little more, we're starting to like feel a little more balanced here. Okay. And again, we've kind of got over this, but this is especially important in your luteal phase because balanced blood sugar means that your stress levels are lower, right? When your stress levels are like cortisol are low, that makes sure that your progesterone levels can balance out. And we have healthy progesterone levels because you can't really have both. Higher levels of cortisol will block progesterone receptors. So we want to make sure that our blood sugar is stable, especially in your luteal phase. That's the biggest takeaway here. Okay. I mean, always, but especially in your luteal phase. Okay. Awesome. Okay, cool. So those are the 3 foundations. Let's kind of recap it really quick because I know we just went through a lot. You guys will get this replay so you can go through it again and have all the lists and everything that I talked about. But first step, eat enough to support your metabolism. That none of this will make a difference if you are under eating, skipping meals, not eating enough protein, those kinds of things. So that makes your body feel safe enough to prioritize fertility, because fertility, again, is not essential. Your hormones, to have pain-free and easy cycles that don't cause you to like end up on the couch with a heating pad every month and canceling your plans and being like, oh, I don't want to end up on vacation on like during my cycle. That is not a priority unless you are giving your body enough fuel, and then it will prioritize your hormones. So making your body feel safe enough to prioritize fertility, number 1. Focus on what foods you're adding in and you're getting enough nutrients and minerals for your hormones to balance out. So again, changing that mindset from restriction to nourishment. Focus on what you're adding in. Last, build your plate to keep your blood sugar stable. Just make sure that your body has a steady stream of energy coming in to balance your hormones, using that fuel to balance your hormones, okay? Those are the 3 steps to start implementing. Amazing. That's everything we went over today. If you guys want more support, today we scratched the surface, right? Like these are the initial foundations your hormones need to balance out. This is how you kiss dieting goodbye. This is how you never have to diet again. When you understand these principles of how to fuel your body, how to like add things in to support your hormones versus restrict, I can tell you that the women that learn this principle, they don't have to diet again. They're not like wondering, okay, what's the next thing? Like, what am I going to, like, how long am I going to be able to sustain this? Because this has your female physiology in mind. This is working for you instead of feeling like you're always fighting against your body. So there is such a better way than hopping from diet to diet, and it is learning how to nourish your body. It doesn't mean you, again, do everything overnight, but slowly starting to add these things in will get you exactly where you want to be, which if you're here, it's pain-free and easy cycles every single month, feeling like you're in the driver's seat with your hormones and you know exactly what tools your body needs. And that just kind of becomes autopilot. So if you are ready for more and you're like, okay, I love this, I want to dive deeper, like give me more support with this, because like you just know that this is the better way that you've been searching for, I've got something super special for you guys, because you stuck with me and showed up today. And I'm so grateful that you guys are here, because this was so fun for me to put together and share with you guys. I've got something special for you guys. This is for you if you feel like pain-free and regular cycles are possible, but again, you're really confused and overwhelmed with where to start. Again, we scratched the surface and taught you the foundations today, but you want the roadmap. You want that laid out for you and specifically help for you specifically as an individual. You feel like you've tried everything to balance your hormones, but you still end up with cycles that make you feel like you're just like debilitated every month, and maybe even not even just during your period, but the couple weeks before your period, around ovulation, you just feel like you're on this like hormonal roller coaster all the time. If you are ready to, again, have the roadmap given to you instead of using Instagram and social media, trying to play the guessing game, like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and using that as your nutritionist, because ultimately like that sets you up to fail. You're ready to take back your health and stop letting your hormones control your life. I can't stress this enough. When you understand this and you're in the driver's seat, you are in control. You are finally in control. You know how to support your body. You know how to listen to your symptoms. You know what your body needs. That is power. That is giving you your power back. You really crave the day where your period just shows up on time without even notice, and you're on your period without even feeling like you're on your period. This next thing is for you. So I'm so excited because the hormone healing method is back. This is my signature hormone healing program that teaches you everything you need to know about having effortless periods and really supporting your body from a nourishment perspective, changing the narrative, diving deeper into everything we did today, and then really applying it to you as an individual. So this is my 12-week group coaching program. It's a small group. It is going to be, again, there will be an individual component to it, to where you will have one-on-one support. You will have an interactive community of women who are going through a very, very similar journey as you, so you don't feel alone on this. It's so helpful to have a community through this. I can't even stress that enough. And also to have like women bounce ideas off of, all of those things. It's so, so helpful. But I'm basically teaching you my proven method that I do with all of my private clients, that take them from feeling frustrated, feeling like nothing is working, and like they've already tried everything, to having the easiest periods of their life. So I'm teaching you all of that in super easy steps. And again, you do have one-on-one support throughout this, even though it is in a small group. So this is pre-sale. I haven't started marketing this yet. So because you guys are here and like I'm sharing this with you guys get a special offer today. So if you're ready to take your power back, I'm offering a couple different things to support you guys and make sure that you guys get the help you need. First 5 people, I'm offering a free 60-minute session with me. There's my calendar link. I will also drop it in the chat right after this. You guys can book. First 5 people to sign up get a free 60-minute session with me to dive deeper into your hormones, into setting a strategic plan to make sure that you are hitting your goals and actually healing your hormones. And then second, anyone who signs up for the Hormone Healing Method group coaching program in the next 72 hours will get $100 off. I will send you guys all the info with the replay so you have it. But I'm so excited to run this because it's so great to be able to offer this in a more like affordable option to one-on-one and in a collaborative group where you guys can work with each other and get the experience of having the support of like-minded women as yourselves while you're on this journey. Like if on my journey, if I had the support of a group of women going through what I was going through, it would have made me feel so much more confident, more settled, and it would have just made my journey so much better. I wish I would have had the support of other like-minded women. So I'm really excited to offer this with you. If you guys have questions on the program or what we went over today, drop them in the chat and let me see. Thank you guys so much for coming too. I know that this was an hour of your time and I so appreciate you spending it with me. This was such an honor teaching you guys. So thank you so much for showing up, being you, being eager to learn. And yeah, I loved teaching this. This was so fun. I'm going to try and do more of these, but if you guys want more support, reach out to me about the Hormone Healing Method. It's going to be so good. I'm so excited. I love leading this program. Okay. Sorry, the questions. Oh yeah, sorry. I will, you're probably not on here anymore. But I will be sending out this replay after after it's over. So I'll send out either tonight or tomorrow morning, and that will also have the bonus offers on it. I'm actually gonna, really quick, I'm gonna drop my calendar link in the chat so that you guys can book your sessions with me. Again, the first 5 people to sign up, I am offering a free 60-minute session. Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen now. And then I'll answer questions. Okay, if we are trying to balance blood sugar, what if we add ACV to our daily plan? Yeah, apple cider vinegar can definitely help be a tool to balance your blood sugar. But if you're not eating enough carbohydrates and protein balanced together, it's not going to make a big difference. So you really want to make sure that you are still focusing on balancing carbs and protein. If you are a little bit more like insulin sensitive or insulin resistant, adding the apple cider vinegar like 10-15 minutes before a meal can definitely help your body regulate your blood sugar a little bit better. But again, like you don't want to be leaning on that to balance your blood sugar. It's not going to do that on its own. You still need the protein and the carbs together. I hope that answers your question. A lot of these things, like you have to remember that supplements or like things like apple cider vinegar, they're tools to support you on your journey. They're not going to be you still need all of the basic foundations, but you can also focus on other things that you're adding in to help support your body as well. You're welcome, Shannon. Okay, cool. Let's see. what was the next question? How can a hormone imbalances affect gut health and vice versa? Such a good question. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. So when you're struggling with so you have to think about it. How do I break this down? Okay. So they're very, very intertwined. Same concept though. When your digestion is struggling, like you get really bloated or you have constipation or like IBS or any of these gut issues, that's a sign of either stress, like your system is really stressed, which means that your metabolism is struggling, like slow digestion, low stomach acid, all of these things are paired to that like slow metabolism. They're all symptoms of the slow metabolism, just like hormonal imbalances. So if you're not digesting your food well and you're producing likely more bad gut bacteria, things are staying in your small intestine for too long, you're not having 1 to 3 regular bowel movements every day, that is going, your body's going to be more prone to recycling and reabsorbing estrogen. The only way that we eliminate hormones is through your bowels or through your urine or through your sweat, right? Like we need to get them out once we've used them. And so when your digestion is struggling, it likely means that your body is reabsorbing excess estrogen, which is going to lower progesterone levels. So your blood levels could look fine on your like blood hormone tests. But if your gut is struggling, your body is going to like be in a more estrogen dominant state. It also puts more stress on your liver when your digestion is struggling. And when your digestion is struggling and your liver is struggling, that makes it hard to detoxify estrogen. And so again, when estrogen is not being detoxified properly, it ends up getting reabsorbed back into your tissues, stored, and that's what creates more estrogen dominant symptoms. So that when your cycle comes, that can lower progesterone levels. So they definitely go hand in hand. Like depending on what your history is and what health symptoms you struggle with will kind of determine like what the chicken or the egg is. But improving your digestion and making sure that you are eliminating daily, you're not bloated after meals, you're making enough stomach acid, those things will impact your hormones. Also making sure you have enough good gut bacteria. Like digestion is very, very important, because when we have too much bacterial overgrowth or endotoxins in the small intestine, that feeds what are called prostaglandins, which is what cause period pain. So if you just kind of see like the cycle there. So I hope that answers your question on gut health and vice versa. They go hand in hand. What counts as the beginning of the cycle? First day of your period or something else? Yes, the first day of your period is day 1 of your cycle. And then once your cycle starts again, that's the next first day. So your cycle would be starting the day you get your period and then would end the next day you get your period the following month. And that's how you determine the length of your cycle. How do you start cycle syncing foods when your cycle is way overdue? Okay, so if your cycle is way overdue, that's a sign of stress. If your body is not, again, prioritizing fertility, that means that your body is stressed out and you probably ovulated later than normal. So likely what's happening is your period's never late, you ovulated later. And if you're not tracking ovulation, then it can seem like, okay, where's my period? But in reality, it's usually that you ovulated later. So that's going to push your period. So that's why I always recommend tracking ovulation so that you know like when your period is coming. What can help if the same things we went over today, the exact same things. There's not like one specific food that's like, oh, when your cycle's overdue, do this. Or when you're experiencing like mood swings, do this. Like maybe to a degree, but still what's happening when your body is more stressed and it's pushing ovulation, that tells me that the body doesn't feel safe. And so that would go back to the very first thing that we talked about. Number 1, making your body feel safe and making sure that you are eating enough food consistently throughout the day and supporting your body with enough minerals. I didn't talk about this in the slides specifically, but if you are trying to focus on what like what nutrients and minerals to add in, adrenal cocktails are really, really good for this, which is a mix of a sodium, potassium, and vitamin C source. So the one I really like to do is 4 ounces of orange juice, 4 ounces of coconut water, and a fourth a teaspoon or a big pinch of sea salt. And this will help lower stress hormones, make your body feel safe again. And that's when your body will prioritize fertility and your period should start to come. So again, tracking ovulation will allow you to know when your period is, if your period is going to be late. Hope that makes sense. Let me know if you need clarification on that. Okay. Is endometriosis a gut health issue or a hormone imbalance? So endometriosis is kind of like an extreme estrogen dominant state. It is both a gut health and a hormone imbalance diagnosis. The root, like, again, it's question what came first, the chicken or the egg, but they both influence each other, because when you're struggling with endometriosis, it means that your body has a ton of excess estrogen. When the endometrial tissue is growing more like outside the uterus, which is what endometriosis is, like that means you have higher levels of estrogen. So it could mean that like fixing your gut health and getting your body to detox estrogen properly, making sure that you're having regular bowel movements, that your body is able to get rid of those hormones, can bring you out of that estrogen dominant state, if that makes sense. So they both impact each other, but as endometriosis is more an extreme, like extremely estrogen dominant. I'm just gaining weight. I hope that helps. Okay. Question. Okay, Shannon. I'm just gaining weight and I feel like I have a buffalo hump forming. My hair isn't growing. I try to eat healthy, organic, no gluten, but I wonder if I eat too much healthy fat. I try to do a lot of fiber, but the scale doesn't budge. Yeah, I mean, that would be a question for you. I would say, are you eating too much fat? I would say log it and figure that out to see if that, like what we talked about, matching what you're currently eating up with your TDEE. If you're gaining weight and you're like still eating, you're trying to eat healthy, you're staying away from processed foods, all of these things, that tells me that your body has started to slow down your metabolism. Again, the very step one, the very first thing we talked about, if your body is struggling to if you're not giving your body enough energy on a regular basis, what's going to happen is that metabolism is going to start to slow down and your body is going to like need less and less fuel. It doesn't mean that like you're stuck like this forever. But your body's going to adapt to how much fuel you're giving it. And this is when I see women eating like 1,000 calories a day and they're gaining weight. And it's like, it's not because you need to eat less. It's because you've been eating less for too long and that slowed down your metabolism. So, and a lot of the times like a lower metabolism also means higher cortisol levels, and higher cortisol levels, you're going to hold more quote unquote safety weight around things like your hips, your thighs, your vital organs, basically, because cortisol like stimulates more belly fat and more like of that protective mechanism around your vital organs. So eating too much fat can definitely make a difference, but I would say track it to see. If you're like putting yourself in a true calorie deficit, then you should be losing weight unless your metabolism is slowed down too much, and then you have to go the other way. So you need to focus on restoring your metabolism and then prioritizing your hormones, and that will help you be able to lose body fat in a healthy and sustainable way. I hope that makes sense. What can you do to aid in digestion? So much. So you really want to start with making sure you're eating enough, and I will hammer this down 20,000 times because that is the root cause. If you are under eating, that will slow down your digestion. Making sure that you are pairing, if your digestion is already very slow, adding in things like bone broth can make a huge difference, especially with meals that are a little more dense. So if you're having like red meat or potatoes or anything a little denser, adding in some bone broth can help you break down and digest the food better. What else? Digestive bitters can also be very, very helpful for digestion. That helps you produce more stomach acid so you can break down your food better. The one I recommend is Urban Moonshine or Organic Olivia. So adding in some digestive bitters or apple cider vinegar before meals can both help you digest your food a little bit better. And then a raw carrot salad. I didn't talk about this today, but I've talked about it in tons of my posts and videos and stuff. Having a raw carrot salad every single day, especially if you struggle with gut issues, can really help clean out the small intestine and make sure there isn't any like leftover bacterial overgrowth hanging out in there. The raw carrot kind of acts like a little scrub brush to make sure that the bacteria is actually coming out of your small intestine and food is not creating some raw in there when digestion is slowed down a little bit. So raw carrots can make a huge difference. The raw carrot salad is basically 1 to 2 medium raw carrots, 1 to 2 medium raw carrots peeled and like you shave them with your peeler, 1 teaspoon of coconut oil, 1 teaspoon, or just like, you know, throw it on there, a little bit of apple cider vinegar or any type of vinegar of choice, and then sea salt. Have that like 15 minutes or so before you eat. I like to do it before lunch. Yes, that makes sense. You're welcome, Allie. Okay, Leilani, dairy tends to slow down my digestion, causing constipation, nausea, etc. symptoms, so I have to limit it and drink lactose-free milk. What are some tips to be able to keep increasing dairy for nourishment? Oh, I love your question. But also keeping a healthy gut. Yeah, so if the lactose-free milk helps, I would say you could try goat's milk. And it sounds like if your body's not producing the enzyme lactase to help you break down the dairy, that sounds like slow digestion. And it sounds like you might not be eating enough on a regular basis. Also, maybe focusing on getting enough minerals, things like zinc and potassium are really helpful for stomach acid. So getting enough coconut water can really help. And then oysters, zinc can help you make the lactase enzyme as well. But I would say if you're noticing, just you really want to go slow with dairy. If you get symptoms with digesting dairy, you want to go really slow. Have it with a meal. So having it with a meal that has a good amount of carbs in it, carbohydrates can help you break down the dairy because that's energy. So it can help you break it down a little bit better. Doing the raw carrot salad can be really, really helpful because that again is going to help kind of clean out the small intestine and help make sure that your digestion is moving properly. And then also bone broth. Sipping on bone broth throughout the day can really help heal and seal the gut lining. A lot of food sensitivities, once you start to heal the gut, those sensitivities go away because your body isn't like leaking, quote unquote, like leaky gut. Like the food's not seeping into the bloodstream and causing that like autoimmune reaction. I hope that was helpful. But I would really try and focus on goat's milk because that is very, very low lactose. And if the lactose-free milk does well for you, goat's milk can be really helpful because it's low lactose. It can be a good stepping stone. With dairy, you want to go very, very slow. So hope that helps. I know that was a lot, but again, you'll get this recording so you can. Yeah, I wonder if I've starved myself and messed up my hormones. It's definitely a possibility, Shannon. Like, again, if you've been under eating for a long period of time, your body starts to slow down your metabolism, and that will make it very, very hard to lose weight because you can't eat any less than you currently are. And we're like all of these things that I'm talking about, we're going to dive into even deeper inside the hormone healing method. So that's why this group program is so good, because again, this is just kind of a little bit of like, I'm just giving you some like tips and stuff, but if you want help, if you want the roadmap to actually implement these things and really have like help step by step, every step of the way, the hormone healing method is so, so good for that. I'm going to have like tons of resources and really work with you one-on-one as well, even though it's in a group program. Okay. It does. Thank you. You're welcome, Shannon. It's like an art of not starving yourself, but being in a calorie deficit. Yeah. So here's the thing. And I feel like social media does a terrible, terrible job of this, but like you can't, like, how do I say this in a way that's, you can't always be in a calorie deficit. And that is not portrayed enough. If you want to lose weight, sometimes you have to work on increasing your calories first so that you're eating enough. And then you can put your body in a safe calorie deficit. So if you've been struggling to lose weight for a long period of time and you just feel like you're just gaining weight, don't just beat the dead horse. Like, stop trying to just lose weight and focus on restoring your metabolism and focus on balancing your hormones. Put the energy there and you might be surprised with what happens. Like when you stop just focusing on just the weight loss, because I see this with so many women, and I was guilty of this when I was younger as well, is I was only focusing on trying to keep my body small and only focusing on like, okay, I need to eat these foods because I don't want to gain weight. And that was like majority of the thought process behind diets. It was like, okay, what diet is going to like give me my dream body? And ultimately, like that thought process over time will start to slow down your metabolism. You can only get away with eating like shit and treating your body like shit for so long before your body is like, I've had enough. And so instead of focusing on just being in a calorie deficit, you probably need to do the opposite. And again, this is what we're diving into inside the group program. I'm going to help you do this in a slow and sustainable way so that you can restore your metabolism and you can balance your hormones and you can start to lose weight in a healthy and sustainable way. So I hope that helps and is helpful, because I know so many women struggle with this, and it's because we've been told that we need to eat less and exercise more, and that is not a lifestyle. Cool. I'm glad that's helpful. Yay. I'm so glad carrot salads have helped. Keep on the carrot salad. I know that the carrot salad has become very trendy, but ultimately it does really work and make a big difference. I've been doing it like for years, and I try and do it every day. Okay, last question. To add in potassium, zinc, etc., is taking vitamins and supplements helpful until we increase it coming naturally in our food? I notice a lot of supplements lately have added sugars into it too. Are those still positive? Yeah, so I highly recommend, especially with zinc and potassium, you can totally get enough zinc and potassium from whole foods. I don't recommend supplementing those unless you're working with a practitioner. I would never, I don't want to say never, but I would usually never recommend supplementing with potassium, and I would usually also never recommend supplementing with zinc, just because it's so easy to get those from Whole Foods. Getting enough, and you want to increase them slowly. You don't want to go from 0 to 100, so just slowly starting to add in maybe an adrenal cocktail or more coconut water or more fruits, or maybe a little bit more potatoes. Like, you want to go slow with these things, and that way your body can really accept these changes and it knows what to do with them. So I would you can get all of these things from Whole Foods. You don't need to supplement, and I wouldn't recommend you to. So I hope that helps. I'm going to be diving deeper inside the group program into like making sure how much specifically you need to be getting, and how to slowly build that roadmap to get there. Because again, you don't want to go from 0 to 100 and just add in like 1,000 milligrams of potassium overnight. That might not feel very good. So really just going slow with food is perfect, and the perfect way to go. You are welcome. Okay, awesome, everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here. This was so fun. I had such a good time putting this together. You guys will get the replay. And I will send that out tonight, so you guys all have that. This is such a good resource to go back to, listen to again. And again, if you are interested in chatting more, I dropped my calendar link in the group in the group chat, and I will send it in the replay as well, so you guys can book calls with me. And if you're interested in the group program and you also want to chat to me about that too, send me a message. I would love to dive deeper into what's going to be going on in the group, because it is such a good way to learn these foundations and really have that roadmap to having pain-free and easy cycles for the rest of your life and really taking charge of your health again. So thank you so much. It was so awesome being with you guys. And until next time. Okay. Bye.